I don't think we serve anybody by just constantly hearing about their trauma and sorrow and sadness, feeling sorry for them, and then just, going about our day feeling sad but not doing anything. Like, that doesn't help anybody.
When you do what you love and you love what you do, you actually feel like you never work a day in your life. Hey everybody, and welcome to another exciting podcast. My guest today is from my own country, the UK, but she lives half in New Mexico and half in California, half in LA. Her name is Ione Butler, and she's very good at getting us away from all the negativity. You've probably heard of the perma-crisis and how we're all lurching from one disaster to another. Like Ione is in the middle of writing a book, and she's going to talk to us about how to get away from all this negativity. So welcome, Ione. I'm thrilled that you're here. I'd love to ask you, first of all, about your book. Tell me about it. What's it called? What's it about? Where did you get the idea to write it from?
Yes, I'd love to. Thanks for having me. For most of my life, or young adult life, I dealt with a lot of depression, and it was crippling. I wasn't able to to do much, and I'm a very driven, motivated person, and being in these like depths of despair was really challenging because I hated to feel like that. I hated feeling like just stuck. And so I would always be actively seeking, trying to find ways to feel better, to feel inspired, to kind of lift myself out of this funk. And I would struggle to find content that would be uplifting and pick me up. And so the idea for the social media platform and the movement that I've built, Uplifting Content, came from that. Basically wanting some real estate on social media that was uplifting. I don't like using the word positive all this. I try to refrain from using the word positive because I just feel like it's not as simple as just being positive. I don't really like that kind of stuff, but I do try to uplift people with the stories that I tell, inspiring stories about remarkable things that everyday people have done. Because I feel like when you see great things that other people do, it inspires you to want to do the same thing. And with the platform, it's a twofold thing. It's wanting to lift people up out of sort of these low energy states into like a higher vibration, and inspiring them to take positive action and do something. And so Uplifting Stories, my book, is a continuation of the platform. Everything was very much on social media before. Uplifting, the Facebook is where we have our main audience. But I don't really like to spend too much time on social media. I think it's actually quite detrimental to my own mental health. And so I wanted another avenue, something that people could hold, read, listen to, the audiobook, just to put them in a positive headspace. Oh, I said the word positive. In a better
say it
headspace.
sometimes. I say it all the time.
Yeah.
So give me an idea, Ione. Could you give our audience some handy hints, if you like? Let's imagine we've just watched the news about Ukraine and COVID, and we're all feeling really stressed and worried and indeed anxious. What kind of advice could you give us? Or what was it something you could suggest right now that would be uplifting as opposed to making you
Yeah,
feel
well, I mean, the opening lines of the book is, do you sometimes despair at the state of the world? Are you disappointed with the people in it? Like the reason for the book is because what I found is being stuck in the news cycle is what causes a lot of anxiety and depression for me. I was up this morning reading a bunch of stuff and then feeling awful. And so the first thing I would say is to acknowledge what consuming these things are doing to you, to your mental health. The whole premise of my work is we hear the line, you are what you eat. My phrase is, you are what you consume, because it's not just what you eat, it's what you listen to, what you watch, the products you put on your skin that gets absorbed into you, as well as the food we eat. Everything has some kind of everything we take in has an impact on our physical and mental well-being. So first of all, the war has been deeply upsetting for me. I don't watch the news. I don't sort of just scroll through endless stories of the horror and the despair. What I do is pick a couple of days a week where I will read up on it. I will look for sources that I find reputable and read up on it, and then take action. And it's rather than just consuming and doing nothing, donating, reaching out to friends who have Ukrainian friends and family, asking if there's anything that they think would be helpful for me to do. Doing a thing to take action and then putting it down. Because I don't think we serve anybody by just constantly hearing about their trauma and sorrow and sadness, feeling sorry for them, and then just, going about our day feeling sad but not doing anything. Like that doesn't help anybody. So my thing is educate yourself, be aware, don't be ignorant to what's happening, but do a thing that you can find solace in, that you've taken an action, however small, and then put it down, because you don't serve the world when you're in this state of despair and depression and feeling awful and suicidal or anxious or whatever it is that's going on. That doesn't serve anybody. So
What would be some of the things that you would do? Give me an idea of some of the
sure.
things.
Yeah, I have this I call it this radical self-care mode, which I go into, and I sometimes have to stop and think about how far I've come from when I was younger to just living in this really dark space to now being happy and fulfilled and really loving life. Um, it's but so it's not as prevalent, the depression, anymore. But what I start to realize is if things are starting to bother me or upset me, I wake up with this feeling of dread. Or if I'm reading the news or watching or reading too much about the war, I get incredibly upset and I start to kind of sink. um, First of all, it's the awareness that there's something wrong, and I start to take care of myself. The immediate thing is cutting off all of that stuff that is triggering these emotions, not just reading news 24/7, listening to all of it. Other things are spending time with friends and family. I used to sometimes, well, as a depressed person, I would kind of isolate myself, and that wouldn't help. It becomes this perpetual cycle. You're depressed because you're lonely, and then you're not reaching out to anybody because you're depressed, and then that makes you even more lonely because you're not seeing anybody. So it's, you know, connecting. Human connection is one of the most important things. So just reaching out to a friend, asking just to chat to somebody, be around people, for me personally helped. Being in nature and having these kind of digital detoxes have been really helpful. I have some property out in Joshua Tree that I just like to get away to. Just it's off the grid pretty much, and so it's very chill. Going for hikes. We're kind of blessed to be able to do that here in California, but just being in nature, it's not good to sit inside or be in a concrete jungle all day. And then there's things like meditation, reading. I typically tend to, you hear about all these people that have these really great morning habits where they wake up and they journal and they do their exercise. And I'm terrible at that. I really can't stick at a routine. But I do have all of these tools, if you will, that are at my disposal for when I start to feel like I'm crashing a little bit. And I will sort of jump into all of that. So the meditation, the journaling, yoga, exercise. Exercise is incredibly important. Eating better, just sort of cleaning up what my act and what I'm eating, drinking more water. And so those are my kind of, yeah, radical self-care things. Oh, and another thing is that doing the things that I love. So if you want to sing, joining a choir and singing. If you like dancing, going on Groupon and taking a salsa class, just try to tap into some of those things that bring you joy, no matter how big or small. Painting, just reconnect with the stuff that you love. And that helps get me out of that funk. And then I feel like when we're in this better vibrational place, that's when you can do great things.
Ione, you're the founder of Uplifting Content Hub, and your book is called Uplifting Stories. I would love to know, and our audience would love to know too, what is the most uplifting thing that's ever happened to you?
Lots of uplifting things. I have quite a few moments of joy when yeah. On first reflection, I was thinking of just some of the different moments that I've had with the platform, and one that comes to mind is sharing a video that I'd made about depression, the first ever video that I kind of put my heart and soul out into a video and posted it into the world, and it went viral and had about 300,000 views, and I was inundated with messages and stuff. And I was very anxious at the time about putting something like that out. I was a bit nervous about how it would be received. But everybody was very loving and supportive. And what was kind of, well, a bit sad, but also uplifting, was how many people had said to me, I never knew that you felt that way. I see you as this kind of go-getter, successful person, hustler, and I never thought of you like that. And I felt this same way. And like knowing that you're able to open up and talk about it has helped me open up and talk about it. And so I found that really inspiring. It was one of the reasons that I decided to keep moving forward with the platform. I feel like when you are vulnerable and raw and honest, um, it helps. It allows people to connect. So yeah, that was one of them. Other moments of joy for me have just been adventures traveling in Bolivia. Salar de Uyuni is this kind of trip that you can go on. It's like a sand, like a white desert basically. And I just had an amazing experience, a 4-day trip with very cool people in a natural hot spring under the stars, surrounded by mountains one evening. And so that was one moment where I was like, this life is amazing. And there's lots of other ones, but that was a pretty special one.
I always think that it's often the getting into clean sheets, to the first cup of tea in the morning,
Mm.
drinking some water when you're thirsty. It's often the simplest things that give us the most pleasure. And I think we forget how simple things, hearing someone laugh, hearing
Mm-hmm.
bird song. For me, when my cat comes and sits on my knee, I would live on a canal, so I always wake up to the sound of herons. And I just love the sounds of ducks. I find that it's always little, it's never the big things. Oh yeah, Christmas Day, someone bought me this great bag, I got some jewelry. It's, oh, when I had my first cup of coffee, or getting into clean sheets, or that smell of grapefruit shower gel. I find smells and tastes and sounds an
Mm-hmm.
immense pleasure. But for you, can you tell me more about where did this passion begin to have uplifting stories? When did it start? And how did you discover it was what made your heart sing?
Well, it was kind of going back to what I was saying earlier on about, always wanting to find something that would help me personally be lifted out of these low moods and then it not being there. And so not finding something like that and then just basically wanting to create something on social media that could do it. Another big inspiration was an amazing guy that I work with called Prince EA. He's a spoken word artist. He does really powerful videos about love and the environment and all sorts of other things. And I had auditioned for one of his pieces and just instantly fell in love with him. He just has such a great heart and was doing such incredible stuff. And I just remember thinking, you're doing everything that I want to do. Um, and so I got to work with him on his video, and he became like a mentor and really helped me kind of create uplifting content. And it's taken many iterations. It was a production company, then it was the hub of content, then it was the book. And I'm not sure what the next chapter of it is going to be yet, but I think it's important that it's still out there.
So you started your life as an actress in England, I believe. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I still am an actress. I recently did the last episode of Better Call Saul, which was very cool because I'm a big fan of the show.
Me too.
Um,
I love that show.
it's so good. Yes, that was a very cool moment of joy to be a massive fan of a show while you're in the show. In the last episode with all the main actors, I was just it was so incredible. I had to pinch myself. Um, so yeah,
Uplifting experience, because you were even at the rap party too.
I wasn't at the rap party, no, but they were kind of celebrating a lot of kind of some of the big actors with their last days there. So that was really lovely to see all the speeches and stuff like that. But I don't even know, as you know, I think they did have a party. I wasn't invited. Um, but So I started out my career in the UK. It was a bit of a struggle, a bit of a hustle. The UK industry as an actress is very different. It's very small, and
Mhm.
my theory is if you don't make it big very quickly, it's very difficult years later to kind of break in. Whereas what I found with LA was I was able to start supporting myself from acting within 6 months of moving out here, which I never thought would actually happen in the UK. I'm a hustler. And so I think that has something to do with it. There's just a lot more opportunity here, and I've kind of grown and built, and I have a production company now. That's sort of my day job, if you will, producing my own content. Um, And so, yeah, the passion comes and goes in waves. It's incredibly difficult to kind of keep going with it, facing a lot of rejection. I sometimes give myself a hard time and question whether or not I'm doing the right thing. But whenever I take long breaks from it, I always want to get back to acting. So I know that there's something there. But I also think that it's okay to like want to do something different. You know, what I'm really craving now is travel. I used to travel a lot for many months of the year, go on big 3 month trips, and obviously due to COVID I haven't been able to do that. And so this year it's going to be a month in Italy, and next year I plan to do the whole of next year traveling. And I feel like with a big travel trip, it's difficult to be an actress and be in LA. So I might just put it on the back burner while I go and travel. And normally, once I come back from a trip, I'm so just hungry and motivated and inspired. And so I think it's good to just to mix things up a little bit, try something different, get some, find your inspiration through a trip or something.
How did you find your inspiration to turn uplifting content? What was a thought, a dream, a goal, if you like? But how did
Hmm.
you find the inspiration, the wherewithal to turn that into reality? What challenges did you face?
Oh,
What
a
was the
lot.
hardest part and what was the most rewarding part?
Yeah, I have there's a chapter, a story in the book about sort of my journey. And my thing is you start with an idea. A lot of the times people then go, oh, that's a nice idea, and then don't do anything else about it. The next part is the you find the ways. So I get very inquisitive. I ask a lot of questions. I do a lot of research. If it's about, developing a if it's about, investing in property, finding a realtor, like taking the steps, finding the ways, and then taking action. And so for uplifting content, Prince EA, who I mentioned, was a big inspiration. He kind of had a blueprint for the work that he was doing. I took a leaf out of his book and was, he was a great mentor, and just kind of grew it and worked with people and collaborated with people. I was sharing a lot of Jay Shetty's work in his early days. He is quite the hustler and was always reaching out to people to do share for shares on of his content on other people's pages and stuff. And then after a little while, I started to take a bit of a back burner. Have a fantastic social media person who helps me deal with the social media, because what I was realizing was I don't want to be spending 8 hours a day on social media. Just for me, it's not my jam. And so I did the book as something different. I started doing Facebook lives again last week as a way of just connecting with people, because that was one of the things that brought me the most joy with the platform. Was it's a community of people to support each other and talk to each other and be there when we're going through stuff. So I'm doing that again now too. But yeah, I got a lot of guidance from Prince EA in the early days.
And you've interviewed some amazing people, some remarkable people. One that stands out is Kyle Maynard, motivational
Yeah.
speaker, and the first quadruple amputee to reach the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro, which is amazing. And he did it all without the aid of prosthetics. So tell me about interviewing him. That must have been extraordinary and indeed uplifting. But tell me about that.
Yeah, it's interesting. He's a very charismatic, charming, lovely man. Um, and yeah, I just really connected with him. His story is remarkable. His whole philosophy is no excuses. So he's a motivational speaker, and he has a point, he can climb mountains with no limbs without the aid of prosthetics. And so if he can do things, this, what can we
Yeah.
what are our excuses? Um, but what was really great is I got to meet him about a year after I interviewed him for the book. I knew that he was going to Burning Man, which is this festival that kind of happens out in the desert. And we bumped into each other on the last day of the festival. I knew that he was there, but I hadn't seen him. We hadn't arranged to meet up anywhere in this non denominational church ceremony. It was music and singing and just lovely, beautiful stuff on a really lovely Sunday morning with breeze rolling through this tent. And then Kyle was there. And I got to spend some personal time with him. My friends and I drove him back to LA. Um, he is such an interesting character. Like uh, he's found ways to like be in the world on his terms. Um, it's very fascinating to watch him because he's very confident, he's very commanding. He's a fascinating human being. and has a very heartfelt, powerful story.
What's the most influential piece of advice you took away from interviewing him, apart from no excuses? What did he say that was most influential and indeed uplifting to you?
I struggle with most things that are the most, but he talked about a story which actually kind of resonated with me about two guys that had come back from, I can't remember if it was Iraq or Afghanistan or somewhere, and there'd been an explosion, and they were kind of in the hospital together, feeling like they weren't sure how they were going to kind of continue with life. And then they saw a story about Kyle, um, and it basically gave them this inspiration to kind of keep moving forward. And he met them in an airport one time when he was feeling really low, and met these two guys that were like, we need to tell you the story, you kind of saved us in a way. And I thought that was really powerful. And again, it kind of links back to what I was saying about when we share our struggles and the things that we overcome, and our ways of dealing with stuff. It has so much power to help other people. And he may not have met those, if he hadn't met those guys, you don't know who you have the power to,
Yeah.
who you have influenced and inspired. So just keep showing up, keep being authentic. I try to share my not just share my struggles and complain about things, but share the things and how I have dealt with them, or how I am dealing with them. So it's this is where I'm at, and this is what's working, or this is what's not working, as a way of kind of making it productive. So it was great that he has such a huge impact on people.
So you're an actress, you're an author, you're an entrepreneur,
Mm,
and you're a presenter, a
mm.
speaker. How do you maintain a work-life balance? What do you do to give you that when you've got like 4 different careers going on at any given time? How do you
Mhm.
have work-life balance?
I've started to get really good at saying no. And I kind of have these little life audits from time to time where I evaluate everything that is on my plate and what's working and what isn't, the things that I'm enjoying the most. I stopped doing my podcast. I think it was in the beginning of 2020. I stopped doing that. Actually, it probably would have been a good thing to do it over COVID. But I stopped doing it just because I thought, okay, I think I've reached where I want to reach with this, and I'm okay to invest my time in something else. Now with work, I'm taking on less and less jobs, being paid more. One thing that so asking for more, rather than being caught as a hamster on a wheel, because that was something that was happening a lot. I was doing so much work all the time. And a friend of mine had said something to me years ago which really stuck, which was work smart, not hard.
Yeah, work
And my
smarter, not
goal, right. And so my goal is to live comfortably, do well, by doing as little as possible. And and so I just think the ways in which I can do that: have residual income for things like rental property, outsource where possible, so that I am, not having to do absolutely everything all the time. Um, the more and more popular, the more and more in demand I get for my production work, I increase my rates slightly so that I'm not having to be frantic, but I can still maintain an amount or make more by doing less. And so just little things like that. And then just constantly assessing, do I really want to do this? How do I feel about this right now? Like right now, I'm having a bit of a how do I feel about acting moment. And so I'm just sitting with that, still going with it, still auditioning, seeing what comes. But that's just a question in the ether that's like, what do I want to do? So the way that I balance it is just checking in from time to time what needs to be done. And then also, I've spent a lot of time apart from my boyfriend. He's been in LA, I've been in New Mexico. In this time back, we've just had like basically 10 days of activities where we've gone to watch the movie. We're having a beach day tomorrow. We're going to a spa on Friday. And it's just setting that time aside where we can not working our butts off in the morning, and then going off and doing a thing and switching off. So I've got better and better at doing that. I was a hamster on a wheel for a very long time, and I don't like that way of being. So I've slowly weaned myself off the wheel.
Me too. So, what does happy look like to you, and what does success look like to you? I mean, I love the fact that you see, people some people think happy and success is say yes to everything, but I like the fact you're saying like, no, I don't want to do that. No, I'd rather work less and even earn less than work more, earn more, and have no quality of life. So, if you
Mm.
had to define happiness and success for Ione, what does it look like to you?
To me, it's being able to do what I want to do when I want to do it. And one of the things that I feel really blessed about is not having to wake up to an alarm. I have to sort of check myself that I wake up and I can choose what I want to do with my day. Um, and so to me, that is the ultimate success, being able to say, let's go to Italy for a month in September. Great. My girlfriend wants to go to Hawaii for her son's birthday in April. She said, you're the only friend that I know that I can just say, can we go away? And you're available and you can do it. And she said that the other day, and I thought, that to me, that I've reached the success that I've wanted to reach, where I can just go on a whim on a trip with a girlfriend for her son's birthday.
Because
So
success for you is freedom, isn't it? Whereas a lot
it
of
is.
people,
That's exact.
success
You've nailed
doesn't,
it. That's
you have
exactly
a
what
lot
it
of
is.
freedom. Freedom to say no, freedom to say yes, freedom to do what
Yes.
you want, living life on your terms.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So it all sounds exciting, and well done to you for getting to that level where you're living your life your way. You decide, I'm going to say yes to that, no to that, think about that. But take me back to what it was like living with depression. What do you think gave you
Mm.
depression? How long did you have it for? And what did you do to overcome it?
I had it, I would say, all my life. I was a very sad child. Didn't want to exist.
You
Was
know
very
why? You don't mind interrupting you. Sorry, let me ask you a question if it's
Yeah, I was an only child, which for the longest time I thought the term was lonely child because that's how I felt. And I when sometimes when I talk about this, I worry that my mum will hear it and take things personally, but like she is the reason that I'm everything I am today, so I'm grateful. But she was a single mother for a long time who was very
Mhm.
stressed and very strict, and I felt very lonely and kind of not loved. And like I now know that everything she did was for me, and she's the most proudest mum, and I'm grateful for her for being such a hard worker, because it's instilled that in me. But yeah, growing up it was just very sad and lonely and strict. And I began the stories in my head, which depression is. No one loves you, you're a mistake, you're going to fail, no one's going to ever be your friend, you'll never have a boyfriend, all these horrible, horrible things that I had for the longest time. When I was about 16, I started to make friends in my neighborhood. I came from a very Indian and Pakistani area, so they had very strict parents also, and it wasn't as if people were allowed to just come around to my
Mm,
house and hang out. We weren't allowed to just go walking around the parks and hang out. Everybody had strict parents, so that was very isolating. But when I got to about 16, I started to connect and have friends,
mhm.
and that really helped. And also like mixed race and black friends that could help me sort my hair out, so I could start. I didn't feel like an ugly, horrible person, which is what I felt when I was really young. So that was a thing. Then I went to the Brit school when I was 16, and so my mum wouldn't let me leave school because I was doing very well academically. She didn't want me to go to a stage school for my GCSEs. But when I was 16, I went to the Brit school, and that was the first time I was doing the thing I loved. I mean, it was like fame. It was the most fun, silly. I just had the best 2 years of my childhood, I think, at the Brit school. Um, and then as I got older, I kind of struggled at drama school, which is kind of the university equivalent. That was a bit less fun because it was very there was a lot of favoritism, and it was very crushing. We're gonna rip you apart to build you up again, all that kind of awful mentality that some institutions feel the need to have. And so I struggled with that. And then coming out of it, it was a rough few years out of drama school, trying to make it in the UK, trying to figure things out. But I've always wanted to grow and be better and do better. So I knew that I had to keep trying. It wasn't fun. And then a big changing point came when I moved to the US. Um, I started a network marketing company at the exact same time, and a big emphasis on that company was personal development. I don't do anything with it anymore. Don't particularly like the products too much. But what I will always be grateful for that company for was instilling in me this habit of reading in the morning and reading in the evening, and that became the thing that like really changed my thought process, my life. Really helped deal with the depression and kind of got me on this entrepreneurial path. So it's been a journey. It's been sad and it's been wild, but and it's interesting because I don't feel like depression just magically goes away. It's still there. Um, it still comes back. I still feel certain things, but it's just I've got better tools to deal with it now. And um, yeah,
You said something which I picked up on because obviously I work with it all the time about children saying, I didn't feel my mum loved me, I didn't feel my parents loved me. And I know from being in this business for 30 years that as a child, when your needs aren't met, when your mother is working two jobs or is busy or is stressed or is depressed or is hormonal or is ill, the child never looks at the mother and says, oh, she's not meeting my needs, because she can't. The child says, oh, she's not meeting my needs, it's my fault. So when a parent doesn't appear to love the child, even though in your case your mother did, the child doesn't ever stop loving that parent. They immediately and often permanently stop loving themselves. So if it's okay for you to discuss, what is it that went on in your childhood that made you feel that you weren't loved?
I would say I was just very we there was no communication. There wasn't much communication, and if there
Mhm.
was, it was just sort of angry communication. So I just spent a lot of time alone. Um,
And it was
just
just you and
alone.
your mum, your dad wasn't there.
No, no. My mum's been with her partner for, she started, my stepdad and her have been together since I was 9, so that they've been together for a very long time. But for a good part, it was just my mum and I,
Mm.
um, and we were very separate. And then it started to get quite. I'm very independent. I don't like being told what to do. So then, sort of the teenage years just got very argumentative, and so that was challenging.
But it all
I
worked out
think for
now.
most of it, I just felt, pardon?
Do you have a good relationship with your mum now?
Yes,
And she's proud
yes.
of you.
She's so proud. She's like my biggest cheerleader, and it's nice. It's yeah, we have like once a year. She'll either normally I get to see her twice a year. I'll go out to the UK. She'll come out to the US, and so we'll have some quality time. I think she wants to come and join us in Italy this year. So it's nice. I think at a certain point too, one of the things that made our relationship better is my mum and my stepdad moved to the country, and well,
Mhm.
Aylesbury, which isn't too much country but kind of more than London, and I went to a drama school in London. And so when we weren't living together, my mum and I's relationship got better too, because
Mm.
I'm just very independent. I don't mind being told what to do if I want to do it, but if I don't,
Uplifting stories. Show me the cover and tell us where we can
yes.
find it.
Uplifting Stories, here it is. It's available wherever books are sold. So check out Amazon or your local retailer. Wait, I'm holding it upside down. Here we go. That was weird. I was like wondering why things looked a bit different. There it is.
Who's your publisher?
It was Simon and Schuster.
Oh, good. So you got a good deal with them because
I did.
that was
Yeah,
one.
they had a new imprint. I mean, yeah, Tiller Press, which is an imprint of
Mhm.
Simon and Schuster, and their imprint was specifically for kind of personal development books, uplifting books that have they're action books, things that have
Mhm.
kind of like a
Do.
guidebook, whatever, whatever. So it was a perfect fit for uplifting stories. So yeah.
Well, I'm glad it's out. Let's find it. Where can we find you? So the book's everywhere, but where can we find Iona? Where can we
Yes.
find you?
So I'm Ione at Ione Butler on all social media, or we're uplifting content on all social media.
So you're on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram,
Facebook,
everywhere.
YouTube, yep, Twitter, and then ionebutler.com and upliftingcontent.com.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much. I could talk to you a lot, but you've been very, before you go,
Hmm.
if you had to give the audience 3 tips to master your mind, 3 things that you have done and maybe still do to master your mind, how
Hmm.
does Ione master her mind? Share that with us before we have to wrap up.
Yeah, the first one would be recognizing that that your thoughts are not real.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts are things that you can control, and that a lot of the times the suffering comes from the thoughts that we're thinking. So take control of
Mm-hmm.
your thoughts. think better thoughts. The second one would be, I guess, take action, realizing that you can create anything you want to create, but you just have to think about it, figure it out, and just do whatever you need to do to get there. And the third one is, I would say, figure out what brings you joy and what you want to do. Not because you think you should, but like, what do you actually want to do? What brings you joy? I'm starting to question being in LA for the sake of acting. Is that what I want to do, or do I want to go and have a year traveling the world? Kind of want to do the traveling the world for a year. So yeah, think about what you want to do.
I tell my clients that what you're meant to do lies directly behind what you love to do between the age of 7 and 14. So what you are meant to do, what is your unique skill set, what makes your heart sing, it lies behind and is connected to what gave you joy between the age of 7 and 14. So looking back at your life now, what between the age of 7 and 14 gave you joy? What did you love to do? Could be the age of 5 and 16, but look back now and tell me what gave you joy.
I started getting into all of my singing and dancing and acting stuff at 13. So I think that definitely had an impact. Started doing school plays a bit earlier than that, and which was kind of the original love. And then my mum was a travel agent, so we would travel a lot from about since I was 3 months old. So traveling, so, I mean, it's the same. It is the same things.
That's the case that many of us say, I don't know. But if you look back, one of my clients was saying, I was always doing puzzles, and now I'm a strategist. I was always writing little stories, and I'm a writer. My stories are always about unhappy families, unloved children. And so now that tends to be who I work with, or adults who felt like they're unloved children. So it's always fascinating to look back, and for the audience, look at what did you love to do between the age of 7 and 14? What gave you joy or happiness? Because whatever it was, that is the key to your unique skill set, your unique gifts. And it's what somehow you need to try your very best to put that into your career. Because of course, when you do what you love, and you love what you do, you actually feel like you never work a day in your life. I work very hard. I'm sure you do too. But it doesn't feel like work because I love it so much. And so when you can do what you love and love what you do, you're so fortunate. And when you can link back to what you love to do throughout your formative years and put that into your career, you'll always feel like you've never really worked hard ever. And hey, that's what you're doing. So well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's been lovely to talk to you. I hope I get to meet you one day when you're still in LA, and so am I.
That would be lovely.
And have you got another book in the pipeline?
Not yet. No, it was a challenge. My writing is not my forte, and so that was one of the toughest things that I've done. But yeah, the goal would be to have sort of spin-off books, but there's nothing in.
I think once you give birth to one book, you always give birth to another. You always think I've only got one. I thought I've only got one book in me, and I've just written my 7th. But I remember when my first published, my author said, "Where's the next one?" I went, "Oh no, that's it. That's it. I can't do another one. I only had one book in me. Don't be ridiculous." But I really believed that, and now I've just done my 7th. I'm already planning my 8th because it's like having lots of children. Once you've had the first one, it gets easier. Okay. It's been lovely to talk to you. I've really enjoyed it, and let's plan to meet up very soon.
That would be fantastic.
And
thank you
I can't wait to go and look at some more of your uplifting stories. Thank you for giving that to the world. It's a great idea. Check out my next video here. Anyone notice that as that day comes around, they're sick? Because here's how the mind works. You say, oh my God, I volunteered to chair that meeting. I must have been out of my mind. I'd die if I've got to go on stage. I don't want to do that. And your brain's like, leave that with me. Now next Wednesday.